Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Higher Thinking. Welcome to Higher Thinking. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to Higher Thinking. It's gonna be a chill stream today. Not much going on. Just want to do a little bit of research. I wanted to start taking a look at this Dr. Claude Anderson stuff. Hear a lot about this guy. Hear a lot about him. And he's very much so, I hear it, he's very much so in alignment with a lot of things that I am very closely affiliated with. Black empowerment, financial literacy. Very important stuff. The first time I heard about him was through Lucas. A whole lot. Lucas talks a lot about this guy. A whole lot. Think Kanye talked about him. Bad. Well, now known as Ye, right? So I want to just take a gander at a lot of his YouTube content. He has a YouTube channel and does have a lot on it, but I think we can still find some golding. I think we find some. I think we'll be able to find some good stuff on this, and maybe after that, maybe after a few of his videos, maybe take a look at maybe some of Lucas stuff. Just YouTube searching, YouTube surfing a little bit. Okay, where to start? Oh. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Please follow me. It's going to be a lot. This is definitely my first stream. Get off this stuff. If only I know how to navigate YouTube, that'd be a great start.
Hello, don't you dare touch that mouse. You are
Got
right
it.
where you are supposed to be. And that is on the Powernomics YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Claude Anderson, probably your only Black forensic historian in this nation. Today, I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about. First of all, to let you know that I'm here to do what's never been done, and that is to connect the dots between where Black folk are, what got them where they are, and what's been keeping them where they are. And we're going to start by giving you the right data and the right understandings. Now, my first commitment is something I learned years ago as a young man. Back as a young man, I said to myself once, in looking at some historical documents, that I'm going to do something to try to take care of the most beaten, enslaved, Jim Crow, maldistributed people in the world.
Tell him. That's the exact same thing I'm on with this network right here and my future podcast I got along the horizon. Looking at a January release.
And that is the Black people in this nation. They've been beat up on by every generation of
Facts.
every ethnic group. Every
Facts.
religious
Ooh,
group, every cultural group, every language group, everybody has exploited, misused, and enriched themselves off of black folk.
big facts.
So I said to myself, I got to do something. And the first thing that I said I was going to do, when I looked around, I saw a picture of a praying black slave. And what he was saying is that he said, I pray that one day there shall rise among my people a warrior who would know our suffering and would be able to fight our battles. Well, I'm here. I might not be that warrior, but I am going to try to fight black folks' battles.
We gonna be that warrior. That's what this is about. That's what this generation is supposed to be about. We're supposed to be the generation to bridge the gap between our fathers, our parents, values, and what made them as good as they are. Trim off the fat, and then tailor it to the next generation. Right. The millennials. Our job is to take take the previous generations morals and values and ethics, because they are useful, they are valuable, and then instill them into the up and coming generation, because without us, right, without the millennials, the generation Z is just going to be a generation of pill poppers and drugs and drug junkies, right? And we have to stop that. And the way the media is kind of laying everything out to make everybody just feel comfortable, right? Make everybody feel like they don't have to think as much when it comes to who they vote for. Hey, if you a red state, vote red. If you a blue state, vote blue. No, it's much more important. There's much more going on than um, voting red or voting blue. You need to pay attention to the morals and ethics of the people you're voting for. We got a long way to go, though.
I made a commitment to myself back in those days to say, anytime I get a chance, I'm going to try to bring some justice to those beaten, underclass, subordinated, and lynched, castrated, misused, and abused people called Black Americans.
Yes.
Now, in doing that, I said, how should I go about doing it? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get as much education as I could. And so I was blessed. I earned about 6 college degrees, everything from social economics to politics to education and to business. And I'm very proud of those accomplishments. Then I said, now how do I best use those things? Oh, how do I get any blessings or returns for having acquired all these different degrees? It happened just like I anticipated and was delighted to have happen. And that is, I got appointed, first of all, to some of the best positions a man could ever have. In education, for instance, I got a chance to teach every grade level from the elementary school levels to high schools, to junior colleges, and to 2 or 3 universities.
Impressive.
And lastly, I got a chance to be appointed to be over education for the state of Florida for about 7 years, from 1970 to 1977. That was a very unique appointment. Governor Ruben Askew appointed me to be over everything in education in the state of Florida. That's from the elementary school all the way to the graduate schools in both the private sector and in the public sector. That was very special. And I enjoyed doing that. And I tried to bring some justice and some better educational opportunities for Black folk and Black children in the state of Florida. Next thing I knew, I said, now what else am I going to get for having acquired all these different degrees? Then ironically, I was appointed to be the first Black in the history of the nation to ever be to manage a presidential election for Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
I was Jimmy Carter's campaign manager.
Wow.
In the South and in Florida. I didn't say I was I was participating in a political campaign, like passing out literature or knocking on doors. I was the actual manager.
That's
a
crazy.
Black man
That's
managing
dope.
the presidential election.
That's
Following
dope.
that, I also had a chance to be the deputy political strategist for Bill Clinton in Maryland.
Word?
That made twice.
Yo, whoa. This dude is real. He was out there in the trenches for real. I'm already extremely impressed. This dude has really been putting in work.
I had those opportunities to be a manager for presidential elections. Secondly, I got a chance to run political campaigns for attorney generals, for governors, for mayors, for state legislators, and for general elections for school board members. And so I got a chance to understand the real nature of politics. So I appreciated that.
Yeah.
But most importantly,
Yeah.
because of my running the campaign for Jimmy Carter, I got the chance to be the first Black appointed to Assistant Secretary in the United States Department of Commerce and be a sub-cabinet member for a president. In that position, I also got a chance to operate as something no Black had done before, and that was to operate as a advisor and a director and a chairman for economic development for governors in the southeastern states, and advocated, advised them in developing economic opportunities in the southeastern states. Period. I head up trade missions for the governors in the South, in the Caribbean, in Africa, and also in Europe. And so that was a very unique opportunity. Also in that position, as with the president, I had a chance to also be able to over the surplus property program for the federal government, where my signature alone, I could sign a piece of paper and give away surplus property to anybody I wanted, anything that the government had. All I needed was to get the serial numbers of that property. I had 45 member staff down in Charleston, South Carolina. And that was a very unique opportunity. It allowed me to have a chance to appoint and to push through the election or the appointment of 3 Black federal judges. And so I appreciate those opportunities. And when I left that administration, I went down and said, what can I do about business with all these degrees?
Bro has a whole lot of experience, man. This is, man, like, I'm not certain how young he is, right? But just like seeing the stark difference between somebody like this, like somebody that's really lived, right? Took his time out to make sure he got his education in order. Taught on all these different grade levels, and then how involved he was with politics. I mean, this man lived. He didn't wait. He didn't seem like he wasted any time. You know what I mean? Truly an inspiration. Truly.
I've gotten. Well, I had a chance also to be appointed to be the director and help set up Miami Capital, Miami Citywide, and the allocation of resources there out of the Department of Commerce where I had been appointed. We pulled about $9 million out of there and about another $1 million out of the Department of Labor, and built up what's called a Miami Capital, Miami Citywide. I had about a $10 million revolving loan fund. And over the course of about 2 or 3 years, I appointed and set up and established 57 different businesses in Miami Capital and Miami-Dade.
This is
and
what?
Funds
57
for South Florida and for Dade County in general. And so then I said, well, how about education again? Well, again, a chance popped up again. I had a chance to be a director for special education. And that was for disruptive students. And I was an administrator, and as well as a teacher in that program for disruptive students, kids who've been kicked out of schools. So I've had some fantastic opportunities. And now I said, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I fulfilling my commitment to that Black slave who was praying, saying, I hope that someday there will rise among our people a warrior who would know I was suffering and would fight our battles. But knowing there's a difference, simply knowing that slaves were suffering is knowing why they were suffering. There should be some understanding of why they have been put in this position for such a long period of time, for 360 years of slavery and another 100 years of semi-slavery. And that's what we're going to be talking about.
You said, hold on, did you say 300 years of semi-slavery and 200 years of 100 years of semi-slavery? Ooh, this dude's intelligent. A lot of people don't. So many of these dudes be trying to say, "Oh, I ain't slave. I'm a freeze. I was a freeze man." But yeah, okay. Who do you work for? You know what I'm saying? Are you working for yourself? Can you say a couple of things? Can you say key phrases, and will you still get bread? You know what I'm saying? Is your voice muffled, right? Who's your slave master? You know what I'm saying? Who's the person that's stifling your voice when you have something to say? This dude is legit. Let me see what he said real quick though.
Understanding of why they have been put in this position for such a long period of time, for 360 years of slavery and another 100 years of semi-slavery.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to be talking about on the Powernomics channel. And what I call connecting the dots is bringing about some understanding as well as facts about why Black folk have been suffering for so long in this country, have been abused, misused, and ignored, why they've never been able to acquire any significant amount of property, resource, privileges, and rights that all other people were given just by entering the country as immigrants.
Bro, this dude's intelligent. That's exactly what I am excited. I am truly excited. This dude, I'm in for a treat. I promise.
We're going to be talking about all these issues. And on Connecting the Dots, on our program that should arise about at least once every week, every Tuesday, for about 15 minutes, I'm going to select an issue that from the old days or something from the current affairs and try to connect the dots about why and how they impact Black people. And in the course of that, we'll give you a better understanding about what Black folk ought to do, how they got where they are to get out of it. And so I look forward to seeing you on the YouTube channel for Powernomics called Connecting the Dots.
Dope.
And thanks again for staying with me. And again, when you come on, use that mouse in the right way. Do not bypass this YouTube channel. Stop there. I'll be looking for you. In the meantime, be blessed and stay strong and keep the faith. This is Dr. Anderson signing off.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am truly impressed. Let me go ahead and subscribe to my guy right here. Yeah, I'm in for a treat. This dude, man, it's like I said, the dude lived. You know what I'm saying? There's one thing to live, you know what I'm saying, but to maximize, like truly, like, what's the word I want to use? To truly like tailor your time and stay and remain focused, to staying on task about the education and building minds of the youth, right? And then learning and not just participating in politics, but being active in politics. You know what I'm saying? This dude is a treasure, man. I'm definitely excited to see what he has in store for us. Let's see. I think that was that what I saw? Empower Black America. Our joint power. Let me see what we got here. Oh my God. Click. Preach, brother. They don't want to talk about this stuff.
For over 300 years, blacks in America have been racially undermined by the government and barred from equal opportunity legally, politically, and economically. History shows blacks were the labor force responsible for the vast fortunes amassed in the United States and Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries.
Facts.
However, blacks control only 2% of the wealth in the...
Run that back, bro. Say that one more time, my guy.
However, blacks control only 2% of the wealth in the United States. Goody responsible for the vast fortunes amassed in the United States and Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries. However, blacks control only 2% of the wealth in the United States.
We control only 2% of the wealth. Y'all will be shocked at how much money we spend every year.
States. Good evening and welcome to Detroit Black Journal. I'm your host, Daryl Wood. Coming up on this edition of the Journal, we will engage in a revealing interview with Dr. Claude Anderson, author of Black Labor, White Wealth. In part one of a two-part discussion, we will find out why America...
That's what I'm talking about. If y'all was confused earlier as to this whole slavery, what does that mean? How we're not slaves anymore? Pay attention, and you will be schooled.
American public policy, by design, has created a permanent black underclass. That's straight ahead on Detroit Black Journal.
This is dope. This is about as vintage as it gets, I promise. That black and white picture was probably taken like that. That video right there was probably taken like 10 years before they filmed it. I'm just joking. I'm joking. This what I'm talking about, man. This look at this. They went in with this intro, man. I need it. All I get is a logo, bro. This intro, they put some blood, sweat, and tears in this joint.
Thanks for joining me on this edition of the Journal. With me for this edition is Dr. Claude Anderson, author of Black Labor, White Wealth, and he is also president of the Harvest Institute. Dr. Anderson, thank you for joining us on this edition of the Journal.
Well, Darrell, thank you for having me here.
The Harvest Institute is a black think tank that has as its goal the reforming of American public policy as it relates to blacks.
That's correct. What we want to do is get about the business for the first time in the history of this nation, design a policy that is strictly devoted to the economic and social reform of black America by giving them a national plan that will be proactive in resolving some of the major impediments and conflicts and developing broad racial strategies.
Dude, why weren't we listening when this man was speaking? What happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, this is what I'm talking about, man. Yo, Gen X, bro, y'all, like so many of the people before us was just so focused on the partying, man. This stuff was supposed to be set in place and going and going and going. Like, don't stop, man. Just because people, I understand. Okay, let me just be a little more sensitive here. I understand. One second. Like, I understand like the racism that was going on back then, and like when we built, it was torn down or maybe even gentrified to a certain extent. But like, bro, like, why am I just hearing about this brother? You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm hearing about him through YouTubers. Like, bro, I didn't grow up talking. Nobody grew up talking about this dude. This is what he wasn't in we weren't talking about him in schools and stuff like that. I went to two primarily black schools. I've never heard about this brother. And this dude, let's hear him say it one more time.
Form of black America by giving them a national plan that would be proactive in resolving some of the major impediments and conflicts and developing broad racial strategies for dealing with white racism in this country.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, this stuff at this time, it should have been, I don't know what the date of this programming, nor not even a year, but bro, it should have been in motion already. Like, man, yo, Gen X, I love y'all to death. You know what I'm saying? But some of this stuff had to been going in motion. Like, we had to been, come on, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, this stuff had to been at least talked about. Like, this, it gets discouraging at times, man.
A major thrust in that direction is the release of your new text, Black Labor, White Wealth. That book is incredible in the respect that it destroys myths, long-held fallacies, lies, and illuminates history and factuality as it relates to the black condition in America. And by that, more specifically, the institutionalization of racism is exposed for what it really is in American society. You kick over some sacred cows in this book, don't you?
Yes, I do. And that was my primary purpose. What I wanted to do, Darrell, in writing that book was two things. First of all, I wanted to send out a wake-up call to black America. And secondly, I want to prove three things. First of all, is that are blacks in the predicament that we're in And have we been in this predicament for 400 years because what's been told us, first of all, that it was by divine decree, or that it was genetically inherited, or was it really social engineering? And I went back and found out that it's primarily social engineering. That
social engineering. So is he going to say that this was he's going to say this was by design? That'd be interesting.
In the predicament they're in because of social engineering. And what's happened to us all this time, Daryl, is that we've got locked into the lowest status of a no-win monopoly game. That means that we've had wealth in this country redistributed or maldistributed based on skin color going from the lightest to the darkest, lightest, yellow, brown, black. And the wealth has been skewed. So what happens in this country now is you got the white society controlling almost 100% of all.
I just want y'all to know it's not just the white society. There's not yet.
All the income, the wealth, the resources, the business, the corporations, the privileges, and all levels of government.
And therein lies the problem.
They are definitely white, though.
That's your problem. And the issue is race and resources. And black folk don't have the wherewithal to change their conditions.
And the reason that they have not historically in America had access is because of the way as you point out in the book, the legal system has been stacked against us. The political system has been stacked against us. The access to real property, wealth, money, land has been prohibited by law. The Supreme Court has been used as an instrument against us.
And it's still being used as an instrument against you.
Explain that.
Because initially, when the Constitution was written, all the Constitution did was picked up the old public policy that had already begun on black folk. When black folk first arrived in this country in 1619, there was approximately 20 blacks. By 1634, the Maryland colony came into existence. That time you had about 40, 45 blacks in the country. By 1638, something very profound happened, Daryl, that every black person in this country needs to understand. Something very, very profound. What happened in 1638? The Maryland colony put out its first public edict. And what that edict said is that black folks shall never enjoy the fruits of white society. That is very key to what's been happening to you for 400 years.
And that is written and established in American code. It has been codified as law in
That's
America.
right. And so, and between that point, let's say up for about the next 20 years, for instance, the European colonies were putting pressure on this country, saying, hey, we didn't send you to America to have a good time, just enjoy yourself and sit back and relax. We sent you to relax. We sent you to America to produce some wealth, some resources for our European continent. And most of the colonies were sending letters back saying, hey, we can't do anything in this country. We don't have the wherewithal. It would take us a lifetime to clear the forest, to move the bricks, to get rid of the snakes and rocks. And we need a labor force to do it. And at that point in time, the white society knew they had a need. So what happened, they brought together a very strong sense of community around that need and said, we got to find a way of resolving that problem. And they looked back at that public edict was put out in Maryland in 1638, which says black folks should never enjoy the fruits of white society, and they expanded it. So by 1664, 1665, every colony in the United States enacted a slave law that says black folks shall now constitute a subordinated, excluded, uncompensated, non-competitive, managed workforce for the personal comfort and wealth building of white society. And that became your public policy that remained in existence up until recent times.
Why isn't that taught in public education now? Why don't we know that?
Because what happened immediately after that, all the institutions jumped in and all the nations in this country jumped in to justify slavery, enslaving the black folk. And so
they came in and to what?
The religious institution said, well, we have to base it on something. So they said, let's base it on biblical principles. Saying the Bible that the blacks were offshoot of Ham, so therefore God had decreed.
Offshoot of Ham. Yeah, that's. Oh boy. Oh boy. So they called us Ham. They didn't know which in case y'all may not understand what he means by offshoots of Ham, in the Bible people didn't identify by nationalities, right? They identified by the bloodlines, and I do not recall whom Ham was the son of. But I'm not gonna turn this into like a biblical episode or anything like that. But just so you know that they took us from Africa, right? And they slapped an identity on us. Like it seems to be the first. It seems to be the first of many times that they've slapped the identity on us. But with them just calling us Ham, it justified them essentially putting us into slavery. There's a lot of I know a lot of people like to try to weaponize the teachings of the Bible to say, oh, this stuff is Christianity is a sham, and they use this stuff to keep black people in chains and keep black people subservient to white people. But what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of those teachings that pertain to slavery wasn't for those slave owners. Like those in reference, I have to make a lesson about this, and I'm not going to do this today, but those, to the long short end of it, that slavery stuff, or the instructions for slave masters directed to slaves, was for the Jews and the Israelites, right? It wasn't for white people being Gentiles. We'll talk about that one day too, but not today.
The black folks should be enslaved. And that stayed in effect for about maybe about 100 and some years, and all of a sudden they moved over to the biological and said, well, blacks are just basically biologically inferior. So
yeah. It's like lie after lie after lie. Excuse my French, but it's so frustrating watching this stuff.
Well,
and that's what the bell curve is telling you about now.
And the bell curve, of course, is the controversial book assaulting black intelligence as genetically inferior.
That's right.
As the author alleges.
That's right.
Is the case.
That's an extension of the original public policy.
Very interesting, because we get a lot of this type of conversations even today. They call it race realism. I mean, it's like a study that basically apparently there's like these theories, right, relegating to each race or nationality, whatever the hell you want to call it. Everybody is good at something, right? But nobody's good at everything. And everybody's good at different things, you know. But it just so happens that black people just aren't as intelligent as other groups. It's just a whole lot of generalizations, and it's a whole lot of dismissing very intelligent people amongst our culture, right? Well, of course, obviously there's a ton of like extremely intelligent black people. Like, we don't have to argue that at all. But I guess what they're trying to say is, on average, right, in general, blah blah blah, right, black people just don't match up intellectually as, say, Asians and stuff, right?
It's put into place back in the 16th century.
As an extension of that public policy, I think the key here is public policy. What you've talked about and outlined in very brief form is how public policy has been designed in this country around the suppression of a singular racial group.
That's right.
I want to deal with some definitions.
Okay.
Public policy was used to the extent that black people would be suppressed. Coming forward in time, blacks thought that the great salvation of the race could be summed up in one word: integration. Is that true?
No way.
Yes.
Hold on. Are they really finna talk about what I think they finna talk about? This? I thought this was like something we just found. Maybe I must be jumping the gun.
Let me go pick up that public policy and bring you up to that. That public policy stayed in effect until, let's say, 1705, for instance. In 1705, it was codified in what we call the slave codes. And the slave code said at that time defined how in the future all whites would behave and how blacks would behave. And that's why what they call the Southern ethics, where blacks could not challenge whites or raise his hand to defend himself against a white person.
And in fact, white people were told that it was their duty, in fact, to suppress and severely handle blacks in order to enforce the status quo, or they themselves would be considered lawbreakers.
Right. In other words, they violated the code, the white code. And see, in that time, what the code said is that every white must enforce this code. Every religious institution must subscribe to it. All levels of government must be responsible to it. Okay, it must be passed on through your social customs, Daryl, and also through your laws. I put a lot of those laws in the back of the book.
Right.
Okay, and once that was codified in 1705, everybody understood the law. Then by 1710, for instance, Virginia then said now that we have a unified white community, they then broke up the black community by passing what they call meritorious manumission in 1710. And what that says now is to make sure that blacks never have a strong sense of community, a unified self, we will grant meritorious manumission. That's why all these southern states had meritorious manumission laws to any black who goes against his own people.
Which in effect said that blacks could be freed.
That's right.
To enjoy rights and privileges in the society for becoming traitors to their own race.
Right, as a free black. But it would never could be comparable to a white.
Right.
So when that law was passed, then we found that a black could be rewarded for squealing another black, what we call crabbing. And out of a possible 150 so-called insurrections or revolts, slave revolts, a black person squealed in every one of them.
Whoa.
Okay, and he was rewarded for squealing on blacks. That's where you get the crabbing in the black society.
So are you serious?
Never successful black.
They was paying black people to snitch on each other?
That kind of a system was never used against any other group in this country.
I swear it wasn't.
Chinese, Hispanics, or any other group.
Well, you make a strong case.
This is crazy. Hold on a second, man. I'm sorry. Let me run this back for a second. Let me run this back just a smidge. I know I had to dig through this phone to find something, but this is I don't want to. I can't miss this.
That's right.
To enjoy rights and privileges in the society.
And that time, what the code said is that every white must enforce this code. Every
they had a damn code. They had a white code, and that's exactly what black people need to put together. And I know so many people get to going shooting off the hip talking about, we can't be doing this stuff. The white people is evil. It's racism. It's like yo. We got check this out. We're gonna have to instill some codes. We're gonna have to instill some ethics. We're gonna have to do some things that's gonna be deemed questionable to other groups of people, and they're gonna call us racist for doing that. They're not gonna like us for doing the things for implementing some of the strategies that we're gonna need to implement to just strive for equal footing in the society. We're gonna have to get rid of the stigma and just do what's necessary to survive and be great. Because if we don't hurry up, right, and reach the level, right, the status as some of these other nationalities, primarily white people, but there's maybe Asian, maybe Jewish, you know what I'm saying? If we don't establish some sort of some sort of economic structure that will elevate us as a people into their levels, into those heights, we're gonna keep being disrespected everywhere, and we're gonna keep being our ass is gonna keep being kicked by the police departments. You know what I'm saying? And we're just gonna be. It's just like what Ye is going through right now. Everybody got their little thing about Ye, but this whole thing with Ye started with bad contracts. These bad contracts will be no more. You feel me? All we need is some discipline, and then the race will take care of itself.
Religious institution must subscribe to it. All levels of government must be responsible to it. Okay, it must be passed on through your social customs, Daryl, and also through your laws. I put a lot of those laws in the back of the book.
Right.
Okay, and once that was codified in 1705, everybody understood the law. Then by 1710, for instance, Virginia then said now that we have a unified white community, they then broke up the black community by passing what they call meritorious manumission in 1710. And what that says now is to make sure that blacks never have a strong sense of community, a unified self, we will grant meritorious manumission. That's why all these southern states had meritorious manumission laws to any black who goes against his own people.
Which in effect said that black could be freed.
That's right.
This is crazy. Let me one moment. I have to pass this on right now. Meritorious manumission. What? How did he say that? Hold on, fam. Let me just run this back for a second. I need the
community, a unified self. We will grant meritorious manumission.
Meritorious manumission. I can't even, bro. Meritorious manumission. Very, very interesting. This guy, man, this stuff was really set in place. They was paying black people to snitch on each other. That is low. That is low. This is way deeper than I had.
That's why all these southern states had meritorious manumission law.
This man is a gem. He's a national treasure.
To any black who goes against his own people.
Which in effect said that blacks could be freed.
That's right.
To enjoy rights and privileges in the society for becoming traitors to their own race.
Right, as a free black. But it would never could be comparable to a white.
Right.
So when that law was passed, then we found that a black could be rewarded for squealing another black, what we call crabbing. And out of a possible 150 so-called insurrections or revolts, slave revolts, a black person squealed in every one of them. Okay, and he was rewarded for squealing on blacks. That's where you get the crabbing in the black society.
Which is why there was virtually never a successful black
That's
revolt.
Right. But see, and that kind of a system was never used against any other group in this country. No other group, Chinese, Hispanics, or any other group.
Well, you make a strong case in the text for the singular selection, the purposeful separating out of people of the black race for this kind of treatment on this continent.
To make sure there was never a strong sense of community, because a strong sense of community was a threat to the white society. I remember that public policy said you should be non-competitive. And as a matter of fact, the only monument right now in this country that I'm aware of that even recognize and honor the black for being that kind of a black is still in existence up in Harper's Ferry. You know where John Brown had his raid that night?
Sure.
If you ever go up there right outside the hotel, there's a big brown box there. There's a big monument carving to the black slave who jumped off the porch the night John Brown's troops entered the town, and John Brown killed him. The town erected a monument to the Sambo, saying this is the kind of black we like.
Going from the historical codifying of suppression of blacks to the point where we had a civil rights movement in this country. The first civil rights movement is not the one that gets talked about very often. In the book, you talk about the first time blacks were freed. And you talk about how that freedom was really an illusion. What do you mean by that? Why weren't blacks free after they were emancipated following the Civil War?
Because first of all, what they gave blacks was three things. First of all, they set him free. And secondly, they gave him a supposedly 14th Amendment due process and a right to vote. And but those things had no power attached to them. Blacks could not protect themselves with that. Because, see, everything in the society was based on your ability to be able to take care of yourself. And so blacks were set free at that time, naked, penniless, ignorant, defenseless, without clothing, animals, livestock, land. And so they were abandoned. And you gave them civil rights and
pick yourself up by the bootstraps, but they ain't even want to give us a boost.
14th Amendment. He couldn't use them. See, first of all, let's take the 14th Amendment, which is now the ones we hear a lot about. Between 1866 and let's say the 1900s, that 14th Amendment was used 319 times, okay? Out of that, 314 times was by corporations, not blacks. Blacks used it about 4 to 5 times, and guess what happened? They lost every time. Blacks never used the 14th Amendment until 1954. But all major corporations use it. That's when you hear about corporation now being an entity, a person.
Or a person.
They used that 14th Amendment that was given to blacks, then gave it to the corporations. And what they did, and immediately in 1870, they took blacks' rights from them, okay? Because they didn't have any power.
So once again, the rights were basically suppressed.
They were just suppressed.
That which had been written into law was now effectively thrown out.
Because blacks couldn't protect themselves. They had no power. And also what had happened at that point in time is that between 1619, when blacks first came in the country, and until the emancipation, all the wealth in this country and all the power was built around the black slave himself. That's where your money and power came from. Contrary to what people keep talking about, well, you know, land is the most important. Land was never important. Land, Daryl, was totally useless without blacks. As a matter of fact, President Jackson said that blacks brought 75% of the value to land. You can come in this country and immigrant, go any place you want to find all the land free. You can just drive a stake in the ground and say, I own from here to that next street. Nobody cared. It had no value. It only had value when you put black slaves on it. And that's why all the wealth was concentrated in the South. As a matter of fact, in 1860, out of 66% of all the persons in this country had over $100,000 worth were in the South. As a matter of fact, and out of the 5 million blacks who were enslaved, they had a net investment value of over $8 billion. That $8 billion was more wealth than all the other corporations and federal government put together. As a white man in the South who had 2 black slaves was richer than any person in the North. If you threw the average person in the North, I threw in his house, his business, his land, his clothes, his net worth, and his bank account.
2 black slaves.
Well, primarily because it was free labor.
It was free labor.
Yeah.
It was free labor.
You worked them until they died.
That's right. And the thing with a black is you had to work him unto death, but you could not let him grow old. Because you had no way of taking care of him.
Economic liability.
That's right. He became a liability. You had to work him to death early.
Wow.
Seeing then that the policy was set to keep blacks in a place of servitude, cheap or free labor, the country set about to make a set of rules, enforce them through institutions, government, the courts, and basically ensure that blacks through the immigration process would not grow to equal or majority status in the population. In the book, you outline that we're built in as a, quote, minority, unquote, never to exceed a certain statistical level.
Right. In the early part of the 1700s, black slaves became such a good thing. Everybody was hauling black slaves into the country. And from Africa, they shipped approximately, from most of the research I can get, somewhere between 35 and 50 million blacks out of Africa. Over 2/3 of those died en route and capture. But in this country,
2/3.
the black slave population, let's say, hit its peak about the 1750s. We had over 34% of the general population in this country was black at that time. That scared this country to death. They found out that the number reached that high. And in the southern states like Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, and Georgia, the population of blacks had gone somewhere between 55 and 60%. And they said, and so what the colonies started doing then was start saying to England, and remember now, England was franchising slavery. They set up a franchising system for slavery. They were making all the money and the wealth. Most of the wealth of this country was going to England, because England passed laws saying this country could not produce anything except cash crops, and send it to England. England would manufacture it, you know, and send it back and sell it back to them.
Wow.
And that's what the Revolutionary War was over. The Revolutionary War was over black people. The wealth that black people were producing in this country, in cotton, textile, rice, indigo, tobacco, and molasses, syrup, sugar. That's what the fight was over. But the black population hit somewhere around 34%. And after the Revolutionary War, they said the first thing we're going to do is to make sure we get that black population down, because it's a threat to us. So in 1790s, right after the Revolutionary War, the first act of the new Congress was to enact what we call the first naturalization and immigration law, which says this is a white country, white man's country, period. And we slapped a zero quota on blacks in this country.
No other group had the kind of quotas
All right, Nick
or
Fuentes,
limits
you sound just like these
in
assholes.
terms of immigration to this country placed on them. The blacks did.
That's right, because they did not want blacks to be a threat. And that's why they also passed manumission laws to stop anti-manumission laws, saying that we do not want more than 2% of the blacks in this country to be free slaves at any particular time. And that's why a lot of people could not free their slaves, because they were threatened by the free slaves. Because the worst thing in the white society's mind was an uncontrolled, unmanaged black person, because it violated the public policy on blacks. And so they stopped a lot of people from freeing the slaves. But those immigration laws is part of your problem that you have now in Haiti. So you cannot, they don't want to raise that immigration. The present population in this country with blacks is 12.3, which is exactly what it is for Africans in the world, 12.3. And with the black population of Africa, the world population. But also it's important to know that that's why integration won't work, for the same reason.
Now, you come forward in time to the question. Now, the book spends a lot of time outlining the historical problems facing blacks. Spends a lot of time talking about what's wrong for blacks in America, as well as what's wrong with blacks in America. Lest people think that this is strictly a history lesson, let me rush in to say that the book is filled with exposition on solution-oriented plans and strategies.
Very, very needed information. Solution-oriented strategies. Like this is exactly what my podcast is going to be about. We're going to point out what's going on, and we're going to try to find solutions to go about fixing these issues. So
for turning this situation around. It doesn't necessarily call for violent overthrow of the government either.
No, we won't do that.
It is not, and let me ask you this question, is not an assertion of socialistic or communistic principles, is it?
No. See, the basis of the book is saying that black people's future is in their past. You have to understand it. And secondly, from my perspective, see, I've never had any inclination towards socialism, nationalism, any other ism. My only ism is blackism. And this perspective, that I want black folk, I see myself as an empowerment.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, bro. That's exactly that. Okay, well, I don't know what he's finna say, but my the reason I agree with him, right? The reason I agree with that statement is because no matter what you drop black people into, we're gonna have to find a way. We're not in charge of the decision making. You know what I'm saying? That's just not the case. But what we're gonna have to do is navigate in these systems, because I know that there's a lot of people on YouTube that's complaining about capitalism, that's complaining about the patriarchy, that's complaining about politics. It's like, yeah, bro, we're gonna, no matter what's going on in the world or in America, black people are gonna have to navigate that, right? We're gonna have to find a way to swim, to play dirty in the mud. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have to do what we have to do, no matter who has something to say about it, to make it out alive, man. So if we're gonna do social, if we're gonna do capitalism today, and tomorrow we wake up and do socialism, we're gonna have to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So what he just said, I'm not about capitalism. No, we're about blackism. We're talking about making sure black people are okay no matter what the heck is going on in the world. That's exactly what I'm gonna be. I could not agree more.
Pragmatism, saying how do we get from where we need to go as quickly as possible to save ourselves from becoming a permanent underclass in this country by the year 2013.
Tell them.
And one of the ways that you say,
it's 2013, man. 2013 to try 2023, and things are going super duper bad.
They will not work.
Is integration.
Okay,
integration.
Well, black people think that integration is the way to go, and white folk have thought forever. Liberal white folk have thought that integration is the way to go.
Oh, sure. If I was white too, because I really got you boxed in now. See, because that public policy, let me go back to that public policy again. At the turn of the century, that public policy was picked up by our organization, NAACP and Urban League. They saw it and they said, now we're going to come into existence and try to help black folk. What can we do? They were only permitted to help black folk in the context of the public policy. The public policy said black shall be a managed labor force. So the precepts of the Urban League and the NAACP was to help black folks find equal employment opportunity. See what I'm saying? And by the mid-1920s, Garvey and somebody said, hey, hold a second, how about some economic? And they said, no, that's out. And so we can never move blacks into starting their own businesses as a national public policy. So
so they want to give us equal opportunity jobs. They want us to get us. They want to give us gigs, right? But they didn't want to give us anything that's actually substantial. They didn't want us to give us any wealth. We didn't want to. We couldn't own a real we couldn't own something that's going to generate generational wealth. Apparently,
Because again, the law stipulated that blacks cannot have businesses compete with whites
they couldn't
or do
compete.
anything that would bring profitability to blacks and take it away from whites.
Either through they utilize legal and extra legal means to keep blacks out. In many cases where blacks, you see, nobody in this country is more qualified, for instance, raising tobacco and raising cotton than black folk, okay, and taking care of livestock. In many instances, they would even poison the blacks' livestock. They would burn his cotton, burn his wheat.
what? I had to take a break for a moment. The racism in this country ran so much more deeper than I had, bro. I was in the freaking clouds apparently. And that's what's gonna keep happening, bro. You know what I'm saying? Oh, let me get my mouse to work again. That's what's gonna happen in the coming generations. It's like I didn't know any of this stuff happened. My dad did, my grandmother did. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is this stuff is gonna get forgotten, man. This stuff is gonna get forgotten. And it's our job as millennials to take this information and pass it to the next generation and focus and help them focus their brains into coming up with solutions and strategies to win in the coming years. You know what I'm saying? So then when we pass the torch to them, they know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Because without us, bro, they're gonna go into the next generation with this idea of kumbaya is the key to success. You know what I'm saying? Where in reality, everybody else is pretending kumbaya, or they're living off the strength of their ancestors who definitely didn't play no kumbaya, right? And we're gonna play, and we're the best at that. We're the best at this integration mentality. When we can do, like, I'm okay with integration, but we need to be strategic with how we spend the money, right? And how we generate the income, how we spend it, and how we strategize and perform group economics so that we can uplift ourselves in this capitalistic society that we're cursed with dealing with today.
So blacks could not, and that's why if you look in the back of the book, you see all kind of laws that says blacks should not compete with blacks and compete with whites and a whole number of things. But by the mid 60s, what happened in the middle of the civil rights movement there was that, contrary to what's popularly taught, black folk didn't get free in the mid 60s. What happened at that point in time was that that technology finally caught up with that labor need for blacks. And for the first time, the public policy said, hey, we no longer need blacks to open doors and shine shoes and wash dishes and mop floors. We got technology that can do it. And when that happened, something very profound happened again to the public policy. And what they had to do then was say, the white society said, aha, now we've got to change this public policy. So what they said is that now that we no longer need blacks, what we have to do is go into a new period called benign neglect, okay? Or callous indifference.
Let's pause it right there. I'm gonna grab me some chicken real quick. Just bear with me, please. Bear with the brother. We're back. Let's get this on the road.
Right.
Or out of sight, out of mind. So then they said, so Monahan came up with a policy by the late 60s saying, or early 70s saying, it's time
Shout out to my girlfriend. He makes some good ass chicken.
for us to move from focusing on black folk to focus on Indians, Hispanics, and women. But they also said what we must do in our new public policy is, first of all, make sure that all of our public policies at every level show express no guilt for what has happened to black folk. Point one is pivotally important. Point two is that we show no responsibility or obligation to help blacks in any manner. Okay? Which means affirmative action and anything else. Point three is to make sure nothing is done to transfer that wealth that I told you, that 100% wealth on one side of the sheet over to blacks, that never occurs.
Right.
And that is what we've been locked in.
Yo, anybody that's listening right now, please let me know how the excuse me. Please let me know how the audio quality is. If there's any problems with it whatsoever, just please let me know. Give me some feedback and about my audio quality, please.
Into from the mid 60s up to today.
But once again, the civil rights movement focused on integration. The
Right.
civil rights movement said if we can move into their neighborhoods, if we can go to schools with them, if we can sit at the same lunch counters with them, then we'll make the breakthroughs we need to make to end this codified evil called racism.
Because we had been pursuing, since that original mandate in 1638 excluded us, saying black folks should never enjoy the fruits of white society, that's been locked in our mind to enjoy the fruits of white society. So we want to integrate. But nobody else in this country ever wanted to integrate. What they want to do is assimilate. They've always had the option to assimilate by the second generation.
The difference being?
The difference being that they can move in and blend in. They can intermarry and blend in, and by the second generation, you can't tell who's who. Or they can have the option of setting up a little Haiti, or a little Havana, or a little Cuba, or a little whatever you want, or a little Italy. But black folks wanted to integrate, and integrate killed us for a number of reasons. I'll try to get these points in very quickly. One, first of all, integration is nothing but a new modified form of segregation. Only thing now you've broken your people down to a smaller unit, and you defied the first premise of power, which is you no longer have numerical power. Now you're in little small folks wanting to integrate, and
this is gonna be big. He's talking about exactly what I thought he was going to be talking about. This is going to be crazy. Y'all.
And integrate killed us for a number of reasons. I'll try to get these points in very quickly. One, first of all, integration is nothing but a new modified form of segregation. Only thing now
a new modified form of segregation.
you've broken your people down to a smaller unit, and you defied the first premise of power, which is you no longer have numerical power. Now you're in little small groups all around large urban areas. That's point one that's going to knock our brains out. Point two is that the white society maintains what we call a racial balance, or what we call a tipping point, which says that I will accept black folks primarily at zero, but I would tolerate them anywhere from up to 5 to 8% of any given population. But the minute they cross that 5 to 8% population, it is no longer integration, it's now invasion, and I must take action against it. So I'll either take my kids out of school, put my house up for sale, move my business to the suburbs, or I will resign from the organization, okay? Because I'm not going to let him get that.
Bro. Is that why they did that? Is that why when the brothers moved in, when black folks moved in, white people move out? Because of the this strategy that he's talking about right now.
That dominates over me. Third thing that immigration is done for you, it destroyed all your major businesses, because they used the highway system to drive expressways right down the center of every black community in this country. And where blacks used to have major business opportunities in the country, they were all destroyed. 4, we find that also we got a major capital drain. There's a basic rule in economics which says you must spend your money in your community and make it bounce 8 to 12 times before it leaves. Black money never bounced one time. Black folk have approximately $300 billion passing through our hands annually. That money doesn't even bounce in our communities.
Dude, that is facts. Bro, I was just listening to Lucas about that, bro. Who said that? Somebody. I know I was watching some kind of live stream. Excuse me, checking me. I'm just hungry. I remember this conversation being had with somebody, and they said, "Hey, if reparations were to hit, were to arrive to black people, we're gonna have to. That money is gonna have to balance within us, within the community, at least 5 times, and then it reaches other cultures. You know what I'm saying? We have to make full use of the currency that we're given from other cultures, in order to. I mean, it's all part of this financial literacy thing. We have to extract as much use and resource from the currency that's given to us as humanly possible. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was so pissed off about this Black Lives Matter situation. We got, bro, was it $90 million? Was it $90 million? I have to go back and check. I believe it was $90 million that was given to us from all these different types of corporations and stuff like that, just for it to just be squandered by some fucking, God, I couldn't stand those people. But some dude still managed to steal $10 million. Patrice Cullors and her wife buying $1 million homes and stuff like that. You know, that money. No, we don't buy mansions with money that's given to us as essentially as a gift. You know what I'm saying? That money was supposed to be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who built those mansions. I pray there was black people that built those mansions. That they paid black people to, at the very least, they paid black people to build those mansions. Probably didn't, right? But, bro, we can't get you can't just get that large sum of money and then just and nothing gets built from it. Nothing substantial gets built from it. Like, what? Bro, I mean, that's just the thing, man. Without the proper conversations, without the proper the proper building of the foundation, without, what am I trying to say? Without rebuilding the foundation, right? All of us individually, without rebuilding our mental foundation, we're gonna make the exact same mistake Patrice Cullors and the rest of the BLM movement made when receiving that large sum of money. You know what I'm saying?
There are other things that you mention in the book that are evils to black empowerment. We don't have a lot of time left, but in the closing moments, I just want to throw out some key terms that you express in the book and get your very brief reaction to them. First of all, black empowerment is not the same as empowerment, is it?
No.
Why?
No. Because empowerment, in my definition, means giving people the psychological feeling of competence and ability to compete. Now, keep in mind, when I told you back on that public policy, they did just the opposite in the conditioning system, was to tell you that you could never compete with the white society,
right,
and that they passed laws that restricted you from competing, and they also, in their conditioning element, they made you see your future and your well-being only through the eyes of the master, okay? And so when I talk about self-empowerment, I'm talking about how do you get my people to be able to feel self-confident, right, that they can pick up resources and be just as competitive in the other group.
Right.
Group economics.
Group economics. We have to start practicing group economics, which means you're going to have to start spending you got to stop the flight of black capital out of this community, out of our communities. Presently, what's happening is black folk are spending 95% of our money in the suburbs, okay? And we leave about 3%, 5% in the community. 3% of that goes to non-black businesses. Blacks are left with 2% of their annual disposable income. It is humanly impossible for you to live off of 2% of your income. So what happens now is that we've enabled the white community to live off of 2 incomes, to live off of 100% of their income and 95% of blacks' income. Okay? Because both the white community and the black community are boycotting black businesses. That is the primary thing that's killing black businesses. It's not the fact that blacks don't know management, don't know cost analysis, accounting, control, or personnel management. It's because both the black and the white community are killing blacks' businesses by boycotting them. We also know we don't practice quid pro quo in politics, which means you got to say to your people in an election, what can you do for me whether you're black or white if I vote for you?
Right.
And presently the system is that since black folk are subordinate to and excluded from the system, we can only do what's mainstream. And if they do what's mainstream, nothing's going to happen for black folk.
Blacks must.
If they're going to come to our communities and ask for our damn votes, we need to ask for some fucking tangibles. Oh, I got your back. Oh, I took pictures with Dr. King back in the day. Oh, I know how to cook some chicken. Well, whatever the fuck Kamala Harris said. No, that's not good enough. I don't need nobody to play a damn saxophone to gain my adoration. We don't need that. The black community doesn't need that, right? We need tangibles. It's not.
Must reach a point of self-determination by the year 2015 in your analysis.
That's right.
Why?
Why? Because at that time, about 7, 8 major things that's going to wipe us out if we don't do something very quick about getting some power and wealth, rebuilding our communities, and being competitive. One, we anticipate in the next by the year 2013, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics entering this country and 41 million Asians. We have been the #2 population in this country now for approximately 400 years. We're going to be pushed from #2 down to #4, okay? Now, if you didn't get anything for 400 years when you're #2, you figure what you're going to get when you become #4. You're not going to be you're going to have to now speak through 2 other groups. Secondly, crime is going to be a cold word for blacks. Blacks are going to be further criminalized than they are now.
Right.
Next thing's going to happen to black folk. We're going to be forced into what we call a new world order. We're going to have to compete with groups all over the world that we're totally ill-equipped to compete with.
Yes.
And but let me get to one other point very quickly.
Right.
Let me skip off that second.
Very quickly.
So, because one of the things I want blacks to also focus on is civil rights. You missed that question about civil rights.
Right.
We got to get away from civil rights because that's not the major issue. Civil rights won't give you any power. Neither will integration because black.
Oh, this dude is so intelligent, bro. Bro, God, who tricked us like this? Who tricked us like this? Yo, we don't need civil rights. We don't need integration. We don't need any of that stuff when we have power. Bro, Jewish people didn't have it. Jewish people didn't have this fucking problem. Asian people didn't really have this fucking problem. Not to the extent no. I'm trying to tell you, where money and power comes respect. They were going to respect us regardless if we were as focused as the Jewish people were. We'll get to that eventually. But if black people were as focused as Jewish people were and gained a semblance of a stronghold and American capitalistic society as they did, we would not need these "I have a dream" speeches. We won't need a lot of this freedom fighting and all this other. I'm not saying it's. I'm not gonna say it's like that stuff wasn't useful, right? I'm just saying that if we had instilled what this man is talking about generations ago, this stuff would not even been it wouldn't have been a problem. We would have been respected, and then if they didn't respect us, there will be ramifications for that. I mean, look again. I bring up the Jewish people quite a bit, but they are the perfect example of this. If something like you can, it got to the point where you can just you can't even mention, like y'all heard Dave Chappelle stand up. You can't say the Jews, right? You can't do that, because if you do that, there will be ramifications for that, right? So if black people if the roles were reversed between black people and Jewish people, you wouldn't be able to say the and blacks without getting in trouble. You see how that works? That's power. That's respect. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, all this he's gonna tell you, Dr. Anderson is gonna tell you, this stuff would have been unnecessary if we had focused on the economic side more so than this popular democratic way of I'm not democratic, but liberal way of attaining respect. I mean, for me, it sounds like I'm sorry, it sounds like we're begging for respect when we could literally just stay focused and I don't want to say earn it, but that's like the easiest way of saying it: earn the respect.
Folk have been so psychologically, so politically, and so economically damaged, Daryl, by 400 years of deprivation and exploitation, that civil rights and integration won't even reach us. We can't be reached by it, and we can't it can do nothing for us. As a matter of fact, even if you're going to talk about civil rights, then switch it. Right. Instead of talking about, look, gays talk about gay rights, handicaps, handicap rights, females, feminist rights, veterans, veteran rights.
Right.
And when you get to black folk, why do you talk about civil rights? I don't know any blacks named civil. Talk about black rights.
Okay.
Instead of talking about social integration, talk about economic integration.
The book is Black Labor, White Wealth, The Search for Power and Economic Justice. Claude Anderson, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Darrell, for having me.
And of course, you are watching Detroit Black Journal.
Dope. That was incredible. This man is amazing. And I definitely wish we'd practice a lot of stuff that he was preaching. I definitely wish we practiced the stuff that he was preaching those many moons ago, because we'd be in a way better position than we are right now. But see, going on an hour 20-some minutes. I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it for right now. I just kind of want to get the test thing going. I'm gonna start streaming a little bit more often. Well, I'm gonna start streaming in general. I'm gonna start streaming at all, for that matter. But yeah, man. Dr. Claude Anderson. I'm gonna be seeing a little more of him. I'm gonna be seeing a little more of Dr. King. Yeah, of course. Malcolm X, right? Maybe some Louis Farrakhan. Some, black people with something interesting to say, right? That had the idea of pushing the culture forward. Maybe some young bucks too from now and again. But yeah, like for anybody that's kind of wondering what I'm pretty much about, this is like a YouTube channel dedicated to uplifting your mentality, right? It's me being black and me, a lot of my friends, my neighborhood. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of it's gonna be tailored towards the culture, right? But I do feel like if other people kind of put aside the differences, right, and stay focused on the message that I'm the messaging that I'm trying to parlay, I believe that I can give people, I can help people navigate. How do I word this? It's the first time I had to say something like this. If you just put aside the differences, right, the things that we kind of disagree with, and then cherry pick the things that can be useful for your life, you can come out of these extremes with a different perspective, right? And I think a lot of people on a foundational level, like I think a lot of people just are too lenient, or they let the knee-jerk reactions kind of take over their what they should be, what's most important, right? This aspect of like emotions and stuff like that, and like the triggering and all that, like it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to be in tune with I mean, it's there's a time and a place to be logical and stuff like that, and instead be emotional and stuff. I get that, but like there's also gonna be a time where you're gonna apply the wrong mentality in the wrong time, and this channel is gonna help you, right, navigate those feelings and tunnel them into a position, not a position, but tunnel the right decision making process. It's really hard to put. This is really hard to put in words. Ultimately, right? Ultimately, we're going to try to teach people how to read the room. When it's time to read the room, when it's time to read the room, you should know to not right, not say the obvious, not tell people quote unquote how it is. Like here's an example. Maybe I can explain it better with it as an example. During a funeral, that's not the time to air out your grievances. Even though your grievances are true, that's not the time to do it, right? But for most other situations, like you're on the job or you're passing somebody on the street and they mean mug you or whatever, or you're out shopping and stuff and you're kind of low on income. To be honest, not even when you're low on income, just in general. There's gonna be a lot more occurrences where you need to be intellectually grounded. Like you need to be you're gonna have to use your brain, right, instead of using your feelings. And especially and the reason I'm so focused on our community as much as I am is because we're behind, right? And we need the most focus, and we need to be the most not to say insensitive, right? But we're gonna have to use our sensitivity a lot less and remain focused in order to compete, right? In order to compete with these other groups, so that we can gain that respect that we're starving for. I know maybe I know there's gonna be a lot of people that that don't know what I'm talking about as far as this whole competing thing, and numbers and all that, where black people rank in society. They probably don't even think about this stuff at all. But I know a video of well, I might just put the video together myself, to be honest. If the information that I know is still up to date, then I probably should make the video myself. But I got a lot of this stuff from another YouTuber. They kind of did the research and stuff, and it was very telling, right? As far as where we essentially ranked amongst other groups of people in America. And it's like you would like to think it doesn't matter, right? But it really does. And stick with me, right? And you're gonna find out just how much it matters. But otherwise, in the meantime, I appreciate y'all sticking with me, coming through, clicking the like button and all that cool stuff. And I'll catch y'all on the flip side, man. Y'all be blessed out there.